Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of The Last of Us Season 1 finale. Before I jump into my review, please make sure to subscribe. I am really trying to get 30K subscribers so I can get approved for a Rotten Tomatoes credential. I'm very close. I need to get it by the end of March. So, jumping into this review, it's really hard episode to review because it's really well done. It's very true to the game's ending, which is great ending. I love the debate this will cause, and they really made sure they kept that same divisive ending, which I appreciate, and it's something to think about. It's an interesting, it's a fresh, unique ending. Having said that, I still feel like it falls under the traps the show has always felt like to me, where it's hitting the checklist of things that happen in the game and just covering them in order, but no like outside thinking to make it more enhanced as a show. So maybe I'm biased to saying this as someone who played the game, so it might feel more repetitive to me. I'm not sure, but I will say that I think what made this feel a little flat for what it should be is that we didn't even get like a reflection on all the crazy stuff that happened last episode. So it feels like it's just jumping time, jumping to another scene, and you could say, well, that's what happens in the game, but the game has time in between it where you're still with the characters and you're playing and you're going around these different areas where there's still a little more breather to it just in time of playing. And I think that this just feels so choppy, this show, that I think you need to expand on the game and add more scenes in between, get more time put into this good story that honestly, I don't think it totally feels super convincing how much they care about each other at this point in the show, because I feel like we've still seen so much little time between the two of them. And I've said this complaint about other episodes, but just spending so many minutes on side characters in this show. So the pacing really, to me, just hurts the end product of this finale. But when I look at it as an episode in itself, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. And Pedro Pascal really had his moment here as Joel. And I think they gracefully did this very violent scene. And I think that was handled well. And it was still powerful. And it was a big moment, and they did it very importantly accurate to the game, these certain things. But the whole show has been that way, almost too accurate, though. So I think maybe it just makes this feel like it falls a little more flat for me. I again, it's so strange because I can't even put my finger on why it feels that way, because I really want to love this finale. They do this really good giraffe scene from the game. I thought it did it justice, but I think this is just a classic result of a finale that is suffering from what's come before it. And that if this had been a little more less rushed to me, this show as a whole, this would have really, really landed just with how this finale is. But I think what came before it hurt it a bit. I mean, this finale was only 43 minutes long. So you still just could have put more time into this whole show as this whole season goes, and then have these certain scenes happen so we make sure they really, really hit when they do. But I still think when we look at the cinematography of this episode, is one of the better episodes of that. I think the pacing was still strong for what it was. The acting was all great here across the board. I wasn't crazy about the Marlene actress from the video game earlier in the season, but I thought she did great in this episode. And I really liked that they had Ashley Johnson, who voiced Ellie in the games, come and play her mom. I thought that was a good scene and worked really well. But again, there's so many things you kind of scratch your head at, like how much time they dedicate to certain parts in the show just for the season whole. So it's a show that has really good moments to me, just not as good as what the story did in the game. And I think it's just because the disappointment for me is I love Craig Mazin as a writer from Chernobyl, and I love his podcast about writing. And I feel like he just did not think enough outside the box with this story to make us feel like, why am I seeing this as a show? Expand on it, make it more imaginative and better. Where I feel like this just felt a lot, to my disappointment, just like this was the game. Those are the scenes we're going to do from the game that are important, end. And then the stuff that we did expand outside of has nothing to do with the main story, like episode 3. That's what frustrates me, where I feel like we could have taken that whole hour and 10 minutes. People hate me for complaining about that episode. Again, it was a good episode of television, but just wasting time in the show's timeline. So take all that time, spread that out to more Joel Ellie time, and give us some new stuff with the main story that wasn't in the game to expand. They kind of started doing that in the first 2 episodes and left it, right? Like trying to explain what happened in the early days. That was cool, but they dropped it. So I think it was just a very good moments, and I think that the last episode was the best episode because it had that pacing I wanted the whole season, and it really just was awesome. But then again, it feels like we just jumped to this ending, and it could have used an episode in between here to get to this, and that you could have created not even from the game, just in an own TV writing way, something original. So I'm gonna give this one though an 8.4. Still really good on its own right, but it just makes me think, man, if this whole show to me had great pacing, this could have been a masterpiece episode just with the feels of it. But let me know what you thought down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. I try to respond as many as I can. Please make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be reviewing Succession next on the Sunday night show for HBO. I'm also doing Yellow Jackets. I'm very excited for that. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.